Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we are going to cut right through the massive layers of crypto hype to uncover the actual realistic path to real-world functionality. I mean, we hear about Web3 literally everywhere, right? But the reality? Well, it often falls pretty short of the buzzwords. So in this explainer, we're breaking down the source material on the current state of blockchain adoption, the very real challenges it faces, and a super practical approach to solving them, spearheaded by a platform called Apertum. Let's dive in.
All right, let's just address the elephant in the room right off the bat, shall we? Why isn't everyone using blockchain yet? Seriously, we've been told for years now that this tech is absolutely revolutionary, that it's going to completely change the internet, flip banking on its head, and revolutionize commerce forever. And yet, for the vast majority of people, there's a glaring, massive gap between those huge promises and actual everyday adoption. Well, the uncomfortable truth about Web3 today is honestly a cycle you've probably seen play out a dozen times. A shiny new blockchain network launches, they promise the world, they grab a ton of attention, and then they just kind of quietly blend into the background. And the crazy thing is, it's usually not a tech failure, it's a human one. It just didn't change how regular people actually use technology in their daily lives. We call this crypto fatigue, and let me tell you, it is incredibly real. So let's actually break down these pain points that are causing all this fatigue. Look, for a new user, hitting send on a crypto transaction still induces a minor panic attack because the interfaces are just so unforgiving. Then you've got these wildly unpredictable network fees that seem to magically spike the exact minute you actually need to do something. On top of that, most decentralized apps feel like they're designed exclusively for hardcore day traders, not regular consumers like you and me. And for businesses, oh man, they face massive struggles trying to integrate blockchain into their real-world operations without completely breaking their existing systems. Even the so-called game-changing platforms just buckle under heavy usability issues during peak demand. Okay, so how on earth do we actually fix this mess? Well, it takes a totally different mindset. Enter Joseph Haidt. His background sits right at the intersection of high finance and deep tech. And the source material notes something absolutely crucial about his philosophy. He doesn't treat blockchain as a trend. He treats it as infrastructure. That is a huge distinction. Instead of looking at blockchain as some flashy, speculative asset to be traded, he's treating it like municipal plumbing. Think about it. It needs to be invisible, it needs to be reliable, and it just has to work the absolute second you turn the tap. And that exact infrastructure-first mindset, that's the engine driving Apertum. Apertum isn't trying to position itself as just another hyped-up Layer 1 token designed to make day traders rich. No, it's fundamentally an attempt to fix how blockchain is actually experienced. It's all about stripping away those intimidating technical barriers and focusing entirely on repairing the broken user experience that's keeping everyday consumers locked completely out of the ecosystem. Let's peek under the hood for a second. The core architecture of Apertum is built specifically to absorb all those everyday frustrations we were just talking about. Think of this as the secret sauce. We're talking incredibly fast, consistent processing on a scalable architecture that flat out refuses to break or slow down under heavy network pressure. Plus, it's fully Ethereum compatible, and it draws some really smart architectural inspiration from modern frameworks like Avalanche. That unique combination of rock-solid stability and network customization, that's exactly what's needed for mainstream use. So what does this actually look like in practice? It really boils down to 4 completely jargon-free pillars. First, it prioritizes pure speed without overcomplicating things, so your transactions clear instantly. Second, developers don't have to rebuild everything from scratch. Because it's Ethereum compatible, they can just port their existing apps right over. Third, and I love this one, it assumes the user is not a crypto native. You shouldn't have to get a PhD in gas fees or complex private keys just to participate. And fourth, it is built directly and exclusively for real-world usage. The whole philosophy here is actually wonderfully simple. Make blockchain feel like a service, not some wildly complex system. Right now, most platforms out there are unintentionally super exclusive. You basically have to learn a new language and adopt entirely new digital behaviors just to use them. But think about when you open a standard app on your phone. You don't need to know how the back-end cloud servers are operating, right? Apertum is trying to bring that exact same invisible, seamless magic straight into Web3. So you might be asking, what does real usage actually look like in the wild? Well, instead of focusing purely on decentralized finance or crazy speculation, Apertum is structured for actual, tangible commerce.
We are talking about highly reliable, everyday payment systems, smooth integrations for business applications, the actual tokenization of real-world assets, and deep, secure connections with the financial services we already use. It's shifting blockchain from a giant speculative science experiment into a tool that is undeniably useful for everyone.
And honestly, the timing for a shift like this? Absolutely perfect. The industry is genuinely exhausted from all the empty promises. Businesses are finally ready to embrace blockchain, but they are rightfully demanding systems that solve their measurable friction points. They want an end to platforms crashing when demand gets high. They want to fix the nightmare that is complex user onboarding. They desperately need a wider range of real-world applications, and they require a seamless way to integrate with traditional systems. Basically, they want the tech to just work, without having to rip out and replace their legacy infrastructure from the ground up. What we're witnessing right now is a massive, fundamental shift in the industry right before our eyes. The old Web3 mindset always asked, what can blockchain do? It was entirely feature-obsessed and completely driven by hype. But this new shift, this Apertum philosophy, asks a fundamentally different question. How easily can people actually use it? And that pivot, from a technology-first approach to an experience-first approach, changes literally everything. Look, speculation might have brought the initial eyeballs to the space, but simple, easy utility, that's the only thing capable of sustaining it for the long haul. Because at the end of the day, Web3 won't be defined by innovation alone. It will be defined by adoption. Apertum's biggest strength is that it's doing the really hard, completely unglamorous work of making blockchain practical. The true winners of the internet's next phase won't necessarily be the ones with the most ridiculously complex code. They're simply going to be the platforms that people actually use on a daily basis. So what do you think? Are we finally entering the era where blockchain becomes as invisible and as reliable as the internet itself? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember, keep questioning the tech you use every single day.